I spent $3,000 for footage is what I would like to say, but I'm actually in Germany for work, so the flight was free. Anyways, I landed in Munich and went to this restaurant right across the Opera House in the middle of Old Town. I started off with some pretzel and a Helles lager, which were both good. Although, after trying a few German beers, I would say the Pilsner is my favorite. I got this Bavarian roast duck dish as my first meal in Germany. I really wanted something traditional, so the waiter recommended this dish. It comes with 2 potato dumplings and some red cabbage. The duck was pretty good. The skin was roasted nice and crispy, and the duck itself was not bland, perfectly seasoned. Although I wasn't the biggest fan of this gravy, it just made the whole dish super salty. The potato dumplings were also okay at best. I think I just never got used to the consistency because it just felt like I was biting into blubber, if that makes sense. However, the duck itself was pretty good, so I'll definitely recommend this dish. In Munich, I came across a familiar Italian restaurant. I've seen Italy in Chicago, and all I know about them is that they sell overpriced pasta. Looking at the menu, it's pretty much the same. They had the usual pizza, pastas, and assortment of vaguely Italian drinks. Although after looking at the menu closer, I saw the carbonara, which I don't recall seeing in the US, so I decided to check it out. The carbonara was pretty good. It had that funk from the aged parmesan that I think they used, although they may have used too much since it was really funky, but in the end I don't mind. I guess it just means that this is the quote-unquote real carbonara and not some pasta dish with some amalgamation of cream and milk. The noodles were also pretty good. They had that bite to it and were decently thick. The guanciale was fried perfectly and brought that extra saltiness that was needed for this relatively rich dish. In the end, I would recommend going for the carbonara if your Italy has it. The sauce was on point and the pasta was cooked to perfection, so can't really complain. On a lovely Sunday morning in Munich, I was looking for some breakfast. Fortunately, I found a spot open in the morning. I ordered a pasta pomodoro with a burrata. The sauce was very light and fresh. It was literally just sauteed tomato juice and olive oil, no sugar or other additives. The pasta was also cooked perfectly. Also, it looked like it was some sort of day in Munich. I believe Bavaria is relatively religious in Germany, and it looks like they were doing some sort of Catholic thing. Anyways, back to the pasta. The burrata was nice and fresh, very delicate. I do wish there was more salt on the dish. I believe the entire dish was under-seasoned, and adding a burrata on top of the pasta just made it more bland. However, for a breakfast pasta dish, this was pretty light and satisfying, so I can't really complain. After I was done with my business trip in Munich, I arrived at Nuremberg Central Station to go to Berlin, where I would be for the first leg of my Europe trip. However, before boarding, I was pretty curious about the McDonald's in Germany. To start off, Germany had some different sauces. The first one was the spicy sauce, and it tasted like...
It tastes like taco sauce.
The next sauce was the sweet chili sauce. This was my favorite. It tasted like your Thai/Asian sweet chili sauce. I always wondered why they didn't have this in the US because I remember when growing up in Korea, this was my go-to sauce. Anyways, next up was the hamburger. I got a grand barbecue cheese hamburger meal, which was around 10 euros. I think the best way to explain it was a bacon quarter pounder with fancy cheese, a bun, and had some lettuce. Other than that, the taste was alright, nothing special, but I could tell it was a higher quality burger than your regular fast food McDonald's burger. After a 3-hour train ride to Berlin from Nuremberg, I was pretty exhausted, so I was looking for some quick food at the hotel's restaurant. I ordered a nice dark and hearty beer, which was really refreshing. In terms of my main, I got a currywurst. I mean, it is Berlin, the originator of currywurst, so I had like an obligation to try it. Once I tried it, it was really damn good. I wouldn't say it tasted like curry, but more of a barbecue sauce that is more ketchup-y and sweet. My mom got a pizza, and it was alright at best, even though I didn't have huge expectations since it was a hotel restaurant. I would still have to say Little Caesars was better than this. My sister got a seafood pasta and it was pretty good. Garlicky, olive oily, and pretty light overall. However, in the end, this currywurst dish is pretty amazing. I wonder why this doesn't even exist in the US, because I could see this totally being popular in America. I mean, sausage with a sweet barbecue sauce and a plate full of fries sounds pretty good to me. While I was in Berlin, I came across the Steakhouse. I believe this is like the outback of Germany, so I decided to try it out. I got a glass of red wine and found it interesting they have an exact line at 0.2 liters. For my main, I got some steak and fries. I believe the cut of meat was a rump steak and it was cooked pretty well. I also accidentally poured out too much ketchup for my fries. Man, I hate these ketchup bottles, like they're just so inefficient and terrible to use. In terms of the cook of the meat, it may have been over just a little bit since I ordered medium rare, but it was more like a medium. The seasoning on the steak was also pretty interesting. It's not just pepper and salt, but perhaps some garlic powder and other spices. Overall, pretty good. When I think of Germany, I think of Hofbrauhaus. So in Berlin, I decided to go to one. I started off with a liter of beer, and my god was it refreshing after a day of walking around the city. Also, this thing is decently heavy and it could be an actual workout. In terms of actual dishes, I got this giant pork knuckle. Honestly, I was expecting it to be okay at best because this place did seem pretty touristy, but it was very good. The skin was nice and crispy and the meat was very juicy. Probably my favorite dish here. It also came with 2 potato dumplings, so that's pretty good. Next up was this sausage plate. It came with a couple of herby pork sausages and one long one. Not entirely sure what the long one was made of in terms of types of meat, but it was definitely the best. In terms of the herby pork sausages, it kind of tasted like a breakfast sausage. The last dish I got was this currywurst. I think this was my 5th currywurst, and I ain't going to complain anytime soon because these are delicious. Probably a close first to the giant pork knuckle I ordered. After a few days in Berlin and Germany in general, I was starving for some Asian food. I came across this ramen shop, so I had to stop by to satisfy my cravings. I ordered a tonkotsu ramen, and it was pretty good. The broth was not as thick as the ones you get in the US, but it was still pretty good in terms of flavor. However, it did look like they didn't give me as much broth as I would usually get in a bowl of ramen. The chashu was a bit thin, but it was nicely charred. The noodles were a little thin as well, but they were perfectly cooked. I also got some sushi, and it was also pretty good, not so bad. Got some salmon nigiri, an eel roll, and some sort of crab roll. Overall, did this restaurant satisfy my Asian food craving? Yes, it did. Although I would have to say the ramen in the US is a bit better. While I was sightseeing Hamburg, I saw a few food stands in front of the town hall that I wanted to try out. I wanted to order a normal kebab, but instead I got this burrito-shaped kebab. For all I know, it has the same stuffing, but it's just wrapped up. The kebab had lettuce, chicken, tomatoes, and a garlic sauce, which was surprisingly refreshing when put all together. Next up are the fries, or should I say ketchup with a dash of fries. Like, the fries are fine, but my god did they dump a bunch of ketchup on it. Like, the last bit of fries doused in ketchup were pretty inedible. My sister decided to hit up the Asian food stand. She ordered some noodles and chicken in this weird soy sauce broth. It wasn't the most appetizing thing I ate. I think it was just literally just soy sauce diluted in hot water, but it was still better than my ketchup fries. Trying to say Hamburg in a day really does make you walk. At this point, I think I was at like 25k steps, so I wanted to stop and get a snack to cool off. Fortunately, I found this little ice cream spot near the river and got myself a beer and a chocolate-coated ice cream. The chocolate-coated ice cream was very interesting. Like, you would think the chocolate would just snap off, but it was actually softer and chewy. The chocolate wasn't as chewy as like a piece of jelly, but I would say it had the consistency of a fruit roll-up that was semi-frozen. Other than that, the ice cream was nice and very creamy. In terms of the beer, I didn't know which one to get, but after being in Germany for a couple of weeks, I've grown to like the Pilsner the best, and this was definitely just as good.